This podcast is going to be the first in a multi-part series called Factors in Settlement. We get calls from all over the United States, from people in all different walks of life, and many people have one thing in common when they call a law firm. They want a lot of money for the hurt they've been subject to, and that's really understandable. There's a lot of injustice out there, a lot of terrible things that happen to people. Could be anything from somebody's, heaven forbid, hit by a car and now the person has a limp for the rest of his life, to a medical malpractice thing, to wrongful termination of a job that somebody held for 20 or 25 years. And these are all very trying experiences that people have. They're calling, they're upset, they want justice, and they want lots and lots of money, not because they're greedy, but because that's the only way that in our system, the civil justice system, that people are compensated. And the question is, that people have all the time, how come some cases settle and some don't? And another question they have, a cousin of that question, is how come I read about some case in who knows where, California or wherever it is, and this guy got $8 million for this injury, and another guy only got $14,000, and it looked like the same case. And where's my case? Isn't it in the $8 million category? Because people generally are hopeful that they can bring a case and it can really pay off for them, and that's really understandable. So the first factor in settlement, I think, is the most important factor, and that is, what is the demand? The monetary demand. Meaning the plaintiff, the person who's bringing the case or potentially will bring a lawsuit, how much money is the plaintiff looking for to resolve the case? Now, all of this presupposes that the person is bringing the case, and again, this is not to sound greedy, this is the person is bringing the case for money. As everybody here knows, I do not run a law clinic. This is not like a free thing where we're funded by the government and we're kind of here just being social justice warriors and we're trying to make points. I mean, there are many organizations like that, the ACLU and things like that, but that's not what private law firms do. So it's not a social justice warrior type of thing. It's, we're bringing a case on your behalf. Presumably there is some sort of monetary compensation that the plaintiff is looking for to resolve the case. So the question at the end of the day is, what is that demand? How much money is that? And is that demand justified legally? The best way to kind of explain this is, I'm sure most of us have seen the show Shark Tank. And you've got the entrepreneur, and the person has invented the new toy, the new bottle opener, the new kind of wine, whatever it is. And the person is looking for an investment from the shark of, let's say, a few $100,000 for a certain percent of the equity of the company. And what do the sharks do? Do they simply say, oh, well, that sounds good. Okay, where do I write a check? No, they're going to investigate the thing. They ask a lot of follow-up questions. Why is your company worth what you say it's worth? How much were the revenues? How many sales did you make? What does it cost you to produce? What's the profit? Who else owns a share of the company? How much do you own? Do you have a patent? Is this protectable, or can you just be knocked off by a larger fish? That, in essence, is very similar to lawsuits. your lawyer, what he should be doing, and I know we do this all the time, is we have consultations. We seriously look at what are the factors in your case. Would you win? How much would you win? How long have you been out of work? How many times have you been to a psychologist? Are you on medication based on the trauma of whatever happened? And is your demand, is what you're looking for to settle the case comparable to the injury and comparable to the liability that's going to be in front of either a judge or a jury or both? Now, understand this. That does not mean that a smaller demand necessarily is easier to work with. That doesn't mean that. I mean, let's say your case is, look, somebody shot a paper airplane at me. It almost hit me in the eye, and it just missed my eye. It was really annoying, and I'm suing for $5,000, okay? Because this guy did something to me. Either he was fooling around, it was on purpose. He hurt me. All I want is $5,000. That doesn't mean that case is so easy to settle. Now you may say, well, isn't it cheaper for the defendant, for the person who shot the paper airplane, just to pay me $5,000 than to go to court? There are a couple answers to that. One is not necessarily. The person could file a motion to dismiss, which says that throwing a paper airplane at somebody is not necessarily, and almost hitting him in the eye is not an injury, and the court should wipe out the lawsuit because nobody's been injured. That's one thing the defendant can do. Another thing the defendant can do is say the injury is only worth $100, serve what's called a Rule 68, which says that if you don't get a verdict more than $100, you have to pay all the costs of the lawsuit to the plaintiff. That can wipe it out. Or third, the guy may want to fight it. I mean, people get upset when they get sued, if they're sued unjustifiably, or if they're sued for something more than the harm that they've caused. People are like, look, I'm not going to do this. I've had companies pay me to defend them in court, and you can see on some of my other podcasts where I talk about this. And a lot of the attitudes is, look, if we don't think we've done anything wrong, or we don't think we've done anything nearly as wrong as what the plaintiff demands, we're going to fight it. And companies do. So that is going to be the first issue in a case, is what are the demands? What is the plaintiff claiming this case is worth? And that is the number one factor in settlement. If the demand is justifiable based on the evidence, based on the injuries, based on precedent, there is a much better chance for that case settling sooner rather than later than if there isn't. I would look for more of these podcasts. We're going to hopefully do these weekly and come up with different factors for settlement of cases.